Like I said a little earlier, the NSE 20 starting off the week on a positive note at that 3,700 mark. What did you make of today's trading?
Yes, today we saw the NSE 20 reach a new high for this year, up to touching the 3,700 points, which was pretty impressive. The index is up over 15% year to date. But this was despite low turnovers. We saw turnover decline again, and mainly because foreign investors didn't come in strongly into the market. But this is a positive note, and we expect it to trade fairly positively for the rest of the week.
So fairly positive for the rest of the week. What kind of stocks do you have under your radar this week? We had a number of companies coming out with results last week.
Yeah, we saw banks release their results last week. We saw Standard release strong results. Barclays Bank released better than expected results. And this week we also expect Coop Bank to release their results. So we'll still see some good activity and interest in the banking industry. KCB went ex-dividend today. So tomorrow we might see some profit taking on the counter. As well as Kenya Re has witnessed some profit taking today, and we might see that go through the week. Some other counters that are on our radar are Kenya Airways, which has been performing strongly through last week, and we might also see some profit taking this week.
Let's talk a bit on KENGEN. The company plans to raise funds from private investors of about $686 million for a gas-fired power plant. What kind of appetite do you see coming through for that? And let's talk a bit on KENGEN as a company.
So for KENGEN, the company wants to raise money for gas-fired plants. And in addition to gas-fired, they also want to do some coal-fired plants. This is because a majority of the production of electricity comes from hydro, which last year we saw was pretty volatile because of the drought we had. So I think investors will be very interested into coming into this sector for energy, because it's a highly, returns are good because it's under-penetrated, and the growth of this sector is pretty good. So we could see private investors have high appetite for this project.
Now looking at KENGEN currently at 840, would you be buying into the stock at this stage?
At this stage, yes, it looks pretty attractive, although investors have been a bit averse to it because of what we saw last year. They were very dependent on fuel to produce electricity, and last year we saw a real spike in the fuel prices as well as a depreciation in the Kenya shilling. So we don't expect their earnings to be impressive once they announce them this year, but after this year, we expect better earnings for their next full year.
Let's talk on the shilling for a bit. The central bank in the market once again to mop up that excess liquidity. Your thoughts on the central bank's efforts? We are seeing the shilling trading at 84.90 at this stage, with some traders saying that it could go above that 85 level. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Kenya shilling has come under pressure recently, especially because the yields have been on a downward trend in the money market here in Kenya. So the Kenya shilling has been weakening on the back of that, and also because of redemptions of bonds. So there's been some excess liquidity in the market. Though the central bank has come in strongly, selling dollars directly into the market and mopping up liquidity. And we feel the central bank has a muscle to keep doing that because their foreign exchange reserves are pretty strong at 3.95-month import cover. So we expect the central bank to just keep mopping up liquidity, keep selling dollars, and the shilling should remain fairly stable. I don't think they will let it depreciate further as we saw last year, but we think they will keep it under control.
And at what levels are you seeing the shilling settling at?
I think the shilling will settle at about 83, 84 shillings to the dollar. The only risk is a decline in interest rates, but we have seen the central bank maintain its CBR rate at 18%. And we think this will continue just so that it can give the shilling the support it needs.
We had a slowdown in tourism arrivals from Europe. We also have that same situation in Mauritius. What's the likely impact on tourism stocks going forward, given the slowdown in arrivals to Kenya?
Yeah, tourism stocks are not looking good this year, especially because, like you said, first quarter we saw a dip in the arrivals, and this was mainly because of warnings, because of some terrorist activities in the coastal region. And in addition to that, Europe forms the biggest percentage of our arrivals, and they've been going through a hard time. And so tourist arrivals have been decreasing on the back of that. And first quarter is one of the strong quarters, or one of the peak seasons for tourism. And with the dip, it brings in a negative sentiment.
Well, that's where we have to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us, Brenda, this afternoon. That's Brenda Kithinji. She's the research analyst at Standard Investment Bank, joining us from our studios in Nairobi.